Now, a First Alert Weather Breakdown. First Alert Weather Day Special Edition with meteorologist Evan Thomason.
Hello, welcome on into the First Alert Weather Breakdown. It is a First Alert Weather Day here in the ArkLaTex. You take a live look at the First Alert Doppler picture, which we will be staring at all day long. We've already looked at it all throughout the early morning hours, and we will be continuing to keep a close watch over it as we head on into the afternoon and into tonight. Overall, the themes with this system here for the most part is that it is incredibly slow moving. I know you look at this radar picture and it's like, wow, this is incredibly widespread rain. We have rain all the way from Idabel stretched down into Shelby County in Texas there, and also in Panola County with a good heavy rainfall, a good storm containing some heavy rainfall near there. This is lots of messy storms here throughout the day today, and would you believe me if I told you that this isn't even the worst of it here for the day today? Yeah, that is true. Most of the severe weather threats, especially the hail, the strong winds, and especially that tornadic threat, which I know most of you are watching out for, most of that doesn't happen until the afternoon. And guess what? Even though we have the rain in here now, it's not really hindering any of the severe weather potential that's still on tap here for later on this afternoon. We're going to go over that entirely coming up in our First Alert Weather Breakdown. I want to say hello to everybody out there, especially those of you watching on the YouTube live stream here. Or, excuse me, for those of you watching on the Facebook live stream here on the First Alert Weather Breakdown, welcome on, welcome all. I'm meteorologist Evan Thomason here on your First Alert Weather Day. The red tide is out. It is that kind of a day. We haven't had this kind of a day in months, maybe what feels like months, because this is our first measurable rainfall, especially for areas of Shreveport, that we've had in the entire month of November, and it's November 24th. So this has been a long time coming, and this is going to give us a good, at least healthy dose of rainfall, but the problem is it might be too much. One of the biggest issues is flash flooding here for the day today. But we also do have a serious tornadic threat that could extend into areas along the I-20 corridor here for the day today. Again, thank you to those of you watching on our live stream here. I do see some comments. Cheryl, good morning. Christian, could the rain overwork the atmosphere? No, actually. There is plenty of rain in the atmosphere with this system. Again, as stated earlier, this isn't even the worst of it. This is kind of just goes to show you how much of a rainy day it is going to be here for your Monday. Yet this is not going to limit it to the severe weather threat, which is mainly going to be in store here later on this afternoon. For those of you who have seen my social media post, I'll show you that in the graphic for my main social media post of the day today, which was posting the timing of the severe storms for each area of the ArkLaTex here. If you were going to receive severe weather, it was going to be between this time and this time. We haven't even reached any of those times, essentially, in the ArkLaTex. Everything this morning has just been heavy rain, but we haven't had a single severe thunderstorm warning. We haven't had any kind of severe warning at all. It's just been picking up lots and lots of rainfall, which has kind of just annoyed us for the morning hours. Some areas of lightning, some areas of heavy rainfall pockets, but nothing that has spilled out a tornadic chance or a hail chance that's been too significant here so far this morning, which has been good. But, again, we still have a long day to get through here for the day today. So, again, everything is tailored to the First Alert Weather Day here for the day today on your First Alert Weather Breakdown. This is why we have the First Alert Weather Breakdown Weather Podcast. Again, feel free to go to our Facebook page or YouTube page if you want to ask questions at all here during the course of the stream. I'm going to answer any and all questions that I can get to. I will also extend the time of where this usually goes. This usually only lasts about like 30 minutes. I'll try to stay on probably as late as 11:15, 11:30, literally asking your questions. Then I will seriously have to leave and get to business on some other chores. Real quick, I will answer some questions that have already popped up in the chat on Facebook. I already see some stuff. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Morning. I see several good mornings. Good morning to everyone. Good morning to all of you. Hopefully you got good sleep last night heading into this Monday, heading into this First Alert Weather Breakdown. Hold up. Let me see here. Denise, we do need the rain, though, and thank you for keeping up with weather. Of course, that's what I do. Honestly, I'm just psyched about rain. I'm not really psyched about the severe weather aspect of it. Absolutely not. But We do need the rainfall. As stated earlier, this is the first measurable rainfall in Shreveport and for areas south of I-20 for the entire month of November. In fact, you can go back all the way to, I think it was October 25th. It's almost a month from now since we've had last had our measurable rainfall. So I know not everybody's psyched with the storms and everything and dealing with the hustle bustle of that. And obviously, yes, it could be annoying, especially on your commutes. But it's been a month. All right, it's needed. It's time to get at least some rainfall. How high of a tornado risk in mooring sport? We'll get to that a little bit later. Essentially, the best thing I want to say with the tornado risk here, and I'm going to say this again later on, is the farther south you are in the ArkLaTex, the greater risk you have at tornadic chances. Which means, sadly, areas in Nacogdoches and Natchitoches, I got my eyes in particular on you, but that risk could still go as high as the I-20 corridor and could still reach mooring sport here for this afternoon. Good morning from Minden, as says Jonathan. Some of the streets would not flood if the drains were cleared out. Hey, that's something you could do. I know it's raining out right now, but that's kind of a community involvement. If you can clear out the drains, you have the ability to be able to. Please do so. And messy day. It is absolutely a messy day. Blanchard, yeah, tons of storms for everybody. Obviously, I got all the info for everything about that. This is the last one I'll answer, and then we'll get into an actual forecast. Thanks for those of you just waiting for the actual forecast itself. Taylor, my husband is going to work around 3 p.m. until around 10. Does he need to call out because he is a driver? Oh, that's a little rough question, not going to lie. Yes, I mean, the heat of the afternoon is unfortunately going to cause that greatest tornadic risk here for later on today. Now, it's just a giant question mark. As I said, I think the biggest tornadic risk is for areas in the southern edge of the ArkLaTex, but again, it could still reach as far north as the central portion of the region here for the day today. Thanks to daytime heating and a warm front coming in, that the warm front's going to essentially come in out of the south, and that's going to fuel up the actual severe threat with the storms. Again, all this is almost like an appetizer for what's to come here later on today. So would I call out for work? I mean, I would just stay weather aware. If you see a tornadic warning, and if you have a tornado warning, just, the absolute last thing I'll get to. If you're driving in the middle of a tornado warning, just pull off to the side of the road. Just pull off to the side of the road and just pay attention to where exactly that tornadic cell is. If it's somehow on top of you, the best thing I can say is just to stay where you are and kind of to duck and cover in that kind of case and scenario. And if you really want to, I'd suggest like getting under your car in that kind of scenario. But anyways, all right. Thank you for all the reports. Thank you for all the questions on Facebook. As I said, I'll get to all that later. Let's get into an actual forecast for those of you who've been waiting for so long. I know we have so many questions, but hey, some of those will be answered in my full forecast here for you ahead right now. So let's get into it. Hold up. I'm getting control of the weather graphics here first and foremost, so we can go into everything. Yes, this is why we do the first weather breakdown. We go into all the forecasts. We take our time on this because obviously I only have so much time to tell you in a news show what's going on. Live look at the Mattress Plus Skycam. You can actively see some of these rain droplets falling on the screen. In fact, Shreveport's actually getting Shreveport's been getting drizzling showers kind of all morning long, but this is the first heavy rainstorm. Storm that's contained some heavier rainfall that's moved into downtown there. It is disgusting into Texarkana. That is a gross, gloomy outlook. You can even see how low some of these clouds are. This isn't fog, but this is close to it. Getting down to the surface shows you really how thick these clouds are and how much moisture they really have to be able to produce the constant amount of moisture, the constant amount of rain. And that's why one of the issues is with persistent rain falling all day long today, it could potentially lead to flash flooding. So yes, unfortunately, if you have outdoor plans for this afternoon, it doesn't look good. Unless you want to be hanging out in the puddles while you're playing sports or running around, I would say choose tomorrow. The rest of the week looks so much better. But let's get through today. And again, I really want to emphasize the timing of this. We have severe storms in here now. It's been basically since the early morning hours. This could linger on in a portion of the ArkLaTex all the way up into the overnight hours heading into early tomorrow morning. Yes, so again, this is something that persists for the rest of the morning, all afternoon, all of tonight, and maybe into the late night hours. So hang on. Got a wild ride for you ahead. I will say, especially for those of you in the northwest quarter of the ArkLaTex in McCurtain County, you guys will be kind of getting rid of that rain chance first, and then that slowly slides into the rest of the region. But overall, The biggest problem with the system is it's moving at a snail's pace. I mean, some of these lines are actively moving a little bit. One of the lines I've been watching out for all day long has been this line where I'm pointing at with my blue arrow. That contains some of the heaviest rainfall. That's going right through Shreveport right now. And you got some breaks in between them, but we got another ounce of heavy rainfall that's right now on the border of Louisiana and Texas, and you can tell on the loop this is moving up north and east, and this is going to roll right back into Shreveport in the next couple of minutes. These kind of cells have been forming continuously along the southern half of the ArkLaTex and then moving up northward. Here's the issue. Let me zoom out. Before we zoom in and talk about like where Peeps got rain out right now, let me zoom out and show you the entire picture here and just show you exactly how much rain there actually is. So again, all the rain we've been dealing with this morning is continuing to move into Arkansas, but look at how much we still have to get through on the southwest corner of this. This is the actual line and the actual tail end of the system that's got to trek on through. All of this is just stuff that's in front of the actual line. Again, that's moving essentially at a snail's pace. This is finally moved at least east of Dallas, but I mean, it is going to be moving slowly but surely eastward. It's finally reached areas of the areas between Idabel and northeast Texas, but I mean, it's been raining up near there since like 4 or 5 in the morning, so it's been 5-6 hours. The point is, we have several hours of rain to get through on top of the entire region. This is not going to end anytime soon. And one of the worst threats we're watching out for severe weather-wise, especially with the heat of the afternoon, is some of these storms coming out of the south in front of the front, which could mature, become what we call supercells, and could provide unfortunately, a tornadic chance here for the day today. So let's zoom in and get you what's currently happening before we get into any future tracks, which are coming up here shortly. For timing-wise. Right now, I've got a rain on top of Idabel, Mount Pleasant. Again, that's the main line. Once you get past this line, you're done. You're done for the day. But the problem, again, as mentioned, this line is moving in a snail's pace eastward. So Texarkana, a little bit of a light break, but obviously still got tons of storms to get through. And then the main line and cluster that's continued to form well in front of the line has contained the heaviest rainfall. That's been, if I move the camera here, that's been out for areas of Magnolia, some areas of Hempstead County, Lafayette County, southern Miller County. And a big chunk of this heavier rainfall just went right through downtown Shreveport and is rolling right through Benton at this hour. This is going through northern Caddo Parish, northern Bossier Parish as well. And just in time for a brief break before we get all this, which has been heavy rainfall and some lightning with this system that just moved through Carthage. Panola County is just starting to head into the western side of DeSoto Parish. And you can see, again, from the loop, this is moving up north and east, and this is going to come back into Shreveport. So, essentially, one of the things we had in our forecast here for the shows today is our dog walking forecast. If you have a break of wet weather, take advantage of it while it lasts, okay? Again, we are not going to – this is going to be a rainy day, all right? So, hang on to your boots, your rain boots, that is. All right, this is the last graphic before we get into the future track. Just overall census of what's going on here for the day today. We have a warm front coming on through, followed by a cold front. Once the warm front comes on through, that's when it gives us the chance of severe weather. It kind of opens the door for the severe instability to provide hail, strong winds, and, yes, tornadic activity. Flash flooding is kind of the concern right now with persistent rainfall, but thankfully, most of these storms have been actively moving just slowly but surely eastward instead of being almost stationary. Now, the last point about this is I know other people are looking forward to this. Cool down. This is a cold front coming on in, but the cold air is going to be delayed by a day or two. All right, so now getting into that all-important future track. Just so you know, we have 2 different future tracks here for you on KSLA News 12, and we put 2 different future tracks. We're able to show you both of them here on this podcast. What does 2 different future tracks mean for me? Well, essentially, it gives you 2 different solutions of what could happen. And if they're in a pretty good consensus, that means it's probably going to happen that way. So, again, the main line is currently in between Idabel and Mount Pleasant. That's what we just discussed, with a few of these kind of just pop-up storms forming around Shreveport and continuing to southwestern Arkansas here during the early lunchtime hour frame. Once we get into the early afternoon, again, you see how slowly this system moves. The actual line, in the matter of the next 4 hours, only moves from Idabel and Mount Pleasant over to Texarkana and Longview. That's the point. That is how slow this system moves. At any point, more cells could form in front of the line to continue to hit Shreveport. But, for example, the actual line doesn't hit Shreveport more towards 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, which is still 6 to 7 hours away. And as slow as it is, once it hits you, it's going to be hitting you continuously. So Shreveport could be dealing with storms and heavy rainfall as late as 8, 9 o'clock tonight. That's why we say this is a fully rainy day ahead of us. Kind of backtracking a little bit, looks like Texarkana's done by hopefully the afternoon commute. We'll see about that. Meanwhile, you're watching out again for just a few of these cells trying to form briefly in front of the line. That'll contain the greatest chance of tornadic cells if it's going to form at all here for the day today. You can see one of those tornadic storms maybe forming according to this future track around Hemp Hill at this stop frame. You see how that little cell is kind of separated from the line just barely? You're watching it. If you're tracking on the radar, you're watching out for those kind of cells forming south and then moving into the ArkLaTex. That's also why we say that the greatest chance to receive these kind of tornadic supercells, if they are going to form, is going to be for the southern edge of the ArkLaTex, Nacogdoches into Natchitoches. So then, once we get into more towards 8 o'clock, looks like this becomes a fine line and hopefully ends the tornadic threat, hopefully by the late night hours. But the point is, look how late this could go. 10, 11 o'clock tonight, and this line is still going through Hemp Hill and Natchitoches with tons of heavy rain before finally leaving there more towards midnight. So again, this is going to last for the rest of the morning, rest of the afternoon, into all of tonight before finally definitely clearing up by tomorrow morning. Guess what? Tomorrow, a little bit of cloud cover around, but besides that, so much better. All right. Again, that's one future track. Second future track, for those of you that kind of need like a, can you go back on my town? Can you go back and check on certain areas? This is what we also have a second future track for. Anyways, point is, we are watching and keeping you first aware and first alert, all about this slow-moving set of storms. With some of these cells trying to form out in front that could contain, again, that tornadic chance, unfortunately, here for this afternoon with hail and strong winds. That's what those cells will form. Looks like Shreveport could catch in on the main line again, not until 4 or 5 o'clock. So even though it's raining now in Shreveport, it is going to be a messy afternoon commute home. If you could plan on some extra time, I would do so. Yeah, and again, as I've stressed earlier, this is why I also said this is not a good evening for a run, by any means necessary. Not just in terms of rain, but also in terms of severe weather coming on through. Heavy rain, all the lightning around. This future track also tries to hold on to rain into Shreveport as late as 10. That's why we also say this is a different future track. It kind of shows you how long it could last. It's a different idea. It's nearby time. It was similar to the 9 p.m. end time from the last model, 8 to 9 p.m. End time for Shreveport on the last model. But this says it continues as late as 10 before leaving Natchitoches more towards 1 a.m. Here for early tomorrow morning, and then Tuesday and Wednesday look a whole lot better. All right, that was a look at both of your future tracks. Let's get into other specifics here with our threats here. Let's go all into detail on that. So, flash flooding and hail, technically all part of the process here throughout the morning and even into tonight. That's what we're watching out for all day long. Thankfully, there hasn't been any flash flood warnings yet. There is still a flood watch, though, in effect, which I actually don't have in my rundown of graphics. In fact, let me go ahead and pull out that flash flood watch here for you. There it is. That is in effect all across the northern half of the ArkLaTex, all in that green shade. Should include southwestern Arkansas, northeast Texas, and southeastern Oklahoma. That goes all the way through tonight. But I would still say I would not be shocked to even see flash flooding in other areas of the ArkLaTex period. So, yeah, I'd be on high alert for flash flooding regardless. But I do want to stress on the last bullet point of this graphic that I said. Tornado threat. It hasn't happened yet. It's not the tornadic and strong wind threat really hasn't come into fruition. The strongest storms haven't occurred yet. I'll let off with this. On the first graphic I came on the air with on this live stream, tornadic threat, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen mainly in the afternoon hours during the heat of the day, especially when we get warmer air working into the ArkLaTex. For now, it's staying cool. here for the moment, but we're going to get a fuel of warmer air out of the south, especially for those in the southern half of the ArkLaTex here for the day today, not as much for the northern half, and that's going to fuel on to that chance of tornadic cells here later on today. So, first rainfall, again, flash flooding. Don't take these estimates too literally. And what I mean by that is don't say, oh, it's going to rain specifically 1.39 inches in Shreveport. This is just kind of a guesstimation as to how much rainfall overall specific areas will get, which, according to this, is around 1 inch to 2 inches, pretty much in most places region-wide. But I do want to hint, especially on some of these storms that could train in the certain area, in some areas, like what would happen with Texarkana. Remember, Texarkana last week got just over 3 inches of rain within 24 hours from storms that were stuck on top of them from last Thursday. That could happen for mainly any areas in the southern half or anywhere, to be quite frank with you, around the ArkLaTex. That's why we're watching out for that threat of flash flooding, which mainly has moved off a little bit off to the south now, but now it's in between still Texarkana and Natchitoches to Nacogdoches at any point in the day today. Shreveport, you know, especially for those of you who live in Shreveport, have been here, you know some of the roads that flood easily. Don't use them today, especially once we get a little more into the afternoon. You get a lot more consistent rain right along that line that I just showed you. And that, unfortunately, could become a big issue, especially because it's right during the afternoon commute hours, which is bad, very bad. On top of that, again, you have the tornadic threat on top of that, too. So I believe I answered a question as well earlier on the Facebook stream as to my husband's a driver. He works from 3 to 10. Should he call out today? Honestly, now that I'm going over this like this whole forecast again, I might even say yes. It's not even just because, again, the tornadic threat's there. It's just because of the flash flooding. I mean, it's going to be nonstop rain, again, that could flood some of those roadways easily into some of those rural portions of Shreveport. Now, the other thing to get to, this is pretty much, this severe weather risk map, it pretty much takes everything else into consideration severe weather threat-wise, meaning hail, strong winds, tornadic threat. Where is that happening? It's mainly happening in this yellow shade, pretty much south of I-30. If you're north of I-30, you're getting the rain, but you're not getting much anything other than that. And you're certainly not expecting a tornado warning. Speaking of that, I have a specific map that looks very similar. This is your tornado risk map. This, in the brown, is pretty much the areas you could see a tornado warning here for the day today. That's where we're watching out. It's mostly East Texas and Northwest Louisiana along and south of the I-20 corridor. That does include Shreveport and Bossier. I do want to stress that out. But, again, does not really include much of the northern half of the region at all. So if you're living up in the Texarkana, I think you're good away from the tornadic threat. And overall, what I've seen with some of the models here overall is that there exists a slightly higher chance of tornadic activity, mainly in the southern edge of the ArkLaTex. So the farther south you are, the greater chance it is down there. That was a full look at everything with the actual storms here for the day today. I'm just going to go quickly over what this does to our temperatures and the rest of the week in our 7-day forecast. I know this isn't entirely top of mind. I'm going to go over questions here in just a little bit, I promise, after just going over this. I know you've been patient, and I'm sorry. I just wanted to get through this entirely, see if I answer your question, and then you can re-ask it again if I didn't on our Facebook and YouTube streams. All right, temperatures are in the 50s currently right now. Yeah, it is cool and rainy. 57 in Shreveport, 55 in Texarkana. In those spots, it's not really raining as much. You've gotten up in the lower 60s. And for the southern half of the ArkLaTex, these are the projected highs for today. I know Natchitoches is covered up, but Natchitoches is expected to have a high of around 77 for this afternoon, 70 and for Shreveport. Shreveport is expected to warm up a little bit with a good surge of warmer air out of the south. Meanwhile, it still stays cooler. Northern edge of the ArkLaTex, you got highs only in the upper 50s and lower 60s up into Texarkana and the I-30 corridor. A very cool, rainy day all day long up there that eventually is going to settle back into the rest of the region. Remember I said one of the graphics earlier, that cool down is going to be a little delayed. Looks like highs are still in the lower 70s tomorrow across Shreveport locally before everybody gets down to highs in the lower 60s here throughout the second half of next work week. Now, lastly, before our 7-day forecast, Thanksgiving. What does that mean for then? It's going to be very cool. 61 degrees, and most importantly, it will be dry. Look at the rest of the week after today. It looks a lot better. We'll get to that in just a second. I forgot I had this graphic too. This graphic is key. This was posted on most of my social media pages as well. In fact, let me remove my face so you can see the last little line there around Natchitoches. This is not the time frame of when you can expect storms. It has been storming in Shreveport already. It has been Shreveport. It has been storming in areas of Texarkana already. This is the time frame for if you're going to see your severe weather, it's going to come during this time frame. And I know that's an incredibly long time frame. Why is that? Well, it's slow. That's one of the biggest points I've proven and stated here throughout the future tracks is that this is a very slow-moving system, but essentially during the afternoon and for tonight, that's when severe weather can still roll through the ArkLaTex. Again, everything now is just heavy rain, and that's pretty much it, pending just a little bit of rain, a little bit of wind, and a little bit of hail. I don't think we've received hail ports at all so far, but your severe weather threat is more towards this afternoon and for tonight. Despite what you think has already happened right now, you have to wait for the most severe storms again until later on today in those specific times for those specific areas. Lastly, 7-day forecast. 70 for a high today. Again, highs down to the lower 60s for the second half of the week. It looks a lot better the rest of the week after today. Just got to get through the rest of the day today, including tonight. And then we have much brighter blue skies here for us ahead starting tomorrow here for the most part, continuing all the way through Friday. The next batch of storms is expected to come in, unfortunately, targeting next weekend. That could warm us up a little bit briefly into the 60s. Last thing I want to pinpoint about the 7-day forecast, look at the morning lows. Those will get very chilly here, especially for Thanksgiving morning, where we could be waking up into the 30s and lower 40s here, especially heading into Thursday and Friday. So very chilly weather settling on in as a result of this big cold front rushing on by. All right. Oh, man, I'm going to take a quick water break. That was a huge forecast. Hopefully you enjoyed. That was almost 30 minutes. Don't go anywhere, especially for those of you who still want to stick around, ask questions, find out more additional information that I just forgot. Sometimes I forget it. I forget things. I'm going to stick around. We're going to take a 2-minute break. I'm going to take a glass of water and refuel my lungs here so I can answer more questions on Facebook and YouTube. Again, thanks for sticking around this entire time. And first of all, thanks for trusting us here always at KSLA News 12 with your weather forecast, especially on a severe weather day like today. Again, stay weather aware here this afternoon, and don't go anywhere. I will be right back answering your questions on Facebook and YouTube just after a quick 2-minute water break. Right back after this. Welcome back to the First Alert Weather Breakdown. Thank you for those of you who've been patient, especially asking or wanting to ask questions. Again, this live stream usually ends at 11, but I'm going to stick around for an extra 30 minutes because I can. After that, I do definitely have to leave by 11:30. So I am, until that point, I am all yours to answer any all questions for those of you sticking around for the end of the podcast here. I don't see anything on our YouTube page comment-wise, but I do want to go over some comments that we do have on our Facebook page. Lee asks, will the warm move into Union County? Well, that's way out to the east side of the ArkLaTex. Union County, about a 50-50. I'll give it that. I know Union County, way off to our east along the I-20 corridor. That warm sector pretty much goes as far north as the I-20 corridor, and it pretty much livens up and gives us a chance to have that tornado risk in place. So any shade in the brown here is pretty much where that warm sector reaches. It's how far north, the big question is, how far north does the warm sector actually go? If it doesn't reach areas of the I-20 corridor, then guess what? Shreveport doesn't have a chance of a tornado at all today. But if it does, which as of right now, the forecast for how far north is the warm sector is going to go is pretty much right along the Louisiana-Arkansas border. So Arkansas misses out, Northeast Texas misses out, and so does McCurtain County. But everything in the brown, tornado chances on the table here for the day today. But as I said earlier, the greater tornadic risk is going to be down here on the southern edge because the warm sector doesn't have to travel as far north to be able to reach those locations to provide that instability needed to provide that tornado risk here for the day today. So hopefully that answered your question. Just, if you asked a question prior to Lee's question on the docket, I can't see past, or I should say, I can't see, what's the word I'm looking for? Older comments or older questions beyond that. Anyways, Chris asks, what time will the weather get to Marshall, Texas? Well, first of all, it has been storming in Marshall already earlier this morning. You guys got rained on quite a bit, I believe around 9. I could be right, 9, 10. Right now, Marshall in a little bit of a dry slot because you're away from these cells off to your east, which are mainly hitting out towards Shreveport, Mansfield, and DeSoto, and out towards northwest Louisiana. But for Marshall, you're kind of waiting on the backside of this line here to, again, move at a snail's pace, slowly but surely eastward. Once it gets on top of you, it's going to be raining for a while. And in fact, for Marshall, we'll go over that future track here just really quickly here for you. Essentially, it looks like for Marshall, more towards the afternoons, almost waiting. I wouldn't say waiting around for another 2-3 hours, but take advantage of the break while you have it, because storms could start there around 3 and then still continue on as late as like 6 or 7 p.m. That's right during the afternoon commute, again, which is going to just make the afternoon commute today an absolute mess. So please be careful. Please be careful. This stands for most areas, not just Marshall, with that afternoon commute comment. All right. Let's see here. Daniel, you have the deer feeding times? I do not know what you mean by that. I'm sorry, my friend. Lacey, Benton, Louisiana. I'm scared. Me too. Look, there's no reason to be scared. We're here for you. We're getting through this together. We're gonna stay with you here all day long at KSLA News 12. I got you covered throughout the morning, prepping you out for these kind of storms. CJ is working all the evening shift, and if things get that kind of bad with the severe weather here for the day today, which unfortunately could legitimately happen, again, I do want to stress on the word could, then I will be back here. I will be back here, and me and CJ will take care of it together. All right. Kendall, I drive home from Shreveport to Keithville around 4. Will I be okay, or do I need to wait somewhere? Oh, boy. 4. Let's go back on this future track. 4 o'clock. I mean, 4 o'clock, you're messing. You're messing with that line of heavy rain that's about to come on through right towards 4 or 5 p.m. If you could get home a little earlier than that, that'd be great. Again, these initial storms that are just coming through Shreveport right now, you hear I currently hear lightning on top of the news station here in Shreveport. Again, those are going to be temporary. You're going to have some breaks. Like, for example, this future track holds on to a break in Shreveport more towards like 1, 2 o'clock, maybe 3. If you get home during those breaks, that'd be great. Before 4, because again, that afternoon commute is going to be a mess. Once the rain starts at 4, it looks like in Shreveport, it almost looks like it doesn't stop until like 8 or 9, which is just going to be disgusting to deal with and have to wait out, essentially. Again, it's moving at a snail's pace. It's going to be a while. Rebecca, are we going to be good in the Texarkana area as far as severe weather? I believe so. Texarkana is kind of on the very, very edge of getting like the slimmest chance of severe weather. I think the worst threat I'm worrying about for areas of Texarkana is just the rain, which could cause flash flooding, especially if this line, as mentioned earlier, especially if this line is just going to be stuck there on top of Texarkana for some amount of time, which again, as we see on the future track, it could be stuck there as late as 3, 4 o'clock here for the day today with nothing but heavy rain for persistent 3 to 4 hours. That's what I'm probably worried about most for Texarkana again. Flash flooding, just with rain stuck there. But everything else, hail, and especially that tornadic threat, I think Texarkana is clear of that. Hey, Bridget, it's storming in Keechee? I believe that's how you pronounce it. Thank you for the weather report. I do appreciate it. I do know that is. I just not sure if I pronounced that right. Hopefully I did. Sarah, my daughter is at driving school in North Bossier until 4. I'm in Benton. Should I get her early? Yes. I'm going to go ahead and say yes. I would play that. I'm not even sure if you can hear the lightning in the background with the storms here today. 4 o'clock, you are messing with your, as I like to call it, that's a bad phrase, flirting with disaster. But anyways, you're flirting with that line of heavy storms. Again, once it starts on top of you, it's going to be hard for it to stop for several hours. So I think if you're in Shreveport, Bossier, Benton, Keithville, Stonewall, if you can get home like at 3, and get your drive home done around 3, maybe a little bit earlier in the day. I know it might be a pain to do, but it's worth it just for one day. Remember the rest of our 7-day forecast? It's looking lovely the rest of the week. Just got to get through today, all right? So I would say, get her before 4 because you don't want to drive through this stuff. You really don't. It's not just the fact of, we have a chance of tornadic cells here today. It's again, dealing with that threat of flash flooding and just the nuisance of driving around in the heavy, persistent rainfall pretty much everywhere. How bad is it expected to get in Greenwood? Pretty much same as what I've been talking about, especially with that tornadic threat lifting as far north as the I-20 corridor. So lots of heavy rain, lots of flash flooding potentially, and the chance of, again, hail, strong winds, and the tornadic supercell on the table. Again, I'm not saying a tornadic supercell is going to happen. It's, again, just the chance. The environment is right for it to potentially form, especially for areas in the southern half of the ArkLaTex. And LaCour, how about Texarkana? I believe I just talked about Texarkana. Same thing for Bossier from Cameron. Sarah. Sarai, I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. It's S-A-R-I. Sorry. You said tasty appetizer feeding the severe weather. Gotcha. Pretty much. Looks like training in Hot Springs. Yes, it is moving incredibly slow today, Daniel. I do agree. Another Daniel Garrett. So you're saying what you're saying is I shouldn't go climb a tree with my bow. I mean, I'm not going to stop you, but it would not be advised to do so. You know the risk about that. I don't even need to go into that. DeAndre Bossier can't afford to get no kind of rain or flood. Look, it hasn't rained here in a month. We need rain. It's just getting rain in this type of scenario with all this other severe weather threats attached to it is no bueno. No bueno. Adam, anything major coming through White House? Oh, I got to look up White House. I'm down to comments from 18 minutes ago, so I'm sorry if you've sent something before that. White House, Texas. I don't know why I said it like that. If my map could load, that would be fantastic. There we go. Yeah, that's near Tyler. That's why I don't recognize that place. I don't think so. I think y'all are on the edge of the line. I think y'all are getting the brunt force of the line of the heavy rainfall right now. I think anything for Tyler, Texas, is just dealing with heavy rainfall. Some of those low-lying areas could flood, unfortunately, with the streets and everything like that. So watching out for that. Oh, and you literally said south of Tyler on the next note. Good job, Evan. Big Thunder out of Keithville. Oh, John Phelan. Hey, John, thanks for joining the stream, by the way. John, always one of our guests, interview guests on the First Hour with a Breakdown another day. You should come out for that. But thank you for the weather report out of Keithville. Appreciate it. Bill, Barksdale bubble splits it, and Shreveport ain't getting anything. Hey, power to you. I've seen the Barksdale bubble live in action at work. To be fair, though, it has been actively already storming in Shreveport here earlier on today, and I'm not sure if that's going to hold out here for today. The bubble, that is. I think it's going to rain because it already has rained. Carolyn, we really need the rain in our house, but certainly don't want storms, flooding, and tornadoes. Yeah, as said, we need the rainfall. It's just this amount and the form it comes in is just kind of annoying, a nuisance to deal with. Cam, yo, what's up, man? Chelsea, is the tornado risk high for Bossier City today/tonight? For Bossier City, tornado risk is probably low to moderate. I'd say there's more of a moderate risk, again, pretty much along that southern edge of the ArkLaTex. As stated earlier, it's how far does that warm sector get up north, which as of right now is projected to go as far north as pretty much the Louisiana-Arkansas border, which means most of the northern half of the ArkLaTex misses out on the chance of severe storms, especially when it comes to that chance of tornadic cells. But pretty much all of northwest Louisiana and most of East Texas along and south of I-20 is under the chance for the twisters and tornadoes. Tiffany, any twister alerts for our area at Storm Chaser saying twisters could happen in East Texas, Shreveport, Bossier area? Yes. So, Tiffany, great question. Thank you very much. And as I was going over that, again, everything that is out there right now. In fact, let me go ahead and go back to the current radar because I've just been stuck on the future track loop. This is a look at our current radar. Looks like Shreveport's about to get hammered by more heavy rain at the moment. And that line's going all the way through Mansfield and DeSoto Parish. Lots of light to moderate rainfall across southwestern Arkansas. Some rain still on top of northeast Texas. But again, we still got to get through all this, which is still going to continue to form here through the day today. And I'm watching out for some of these cells, again, continuing to form out of the south and continuing to push into the northeast in front of this line, because these kind of cells are going to be the doozy to deal with here for the day today, and are going to contain our chance of tornadic cells if they're going to happen at all here for the day today. To answer your question, yes. Again, tornadic cells are possible here for the day today, but they're not happening yet. They're not, nothing severe-wise really has occurred yet with this morning besides heavy rainfall and lightning. That would happen later today once we get a supply of warmer air into the region, which I believe is associated with a warm front somewhere in here. I think the warm front somewhere in here, meaning we have warmer air down towards where these storms are, down towards Houston, and this is going to try to push up northward into the ArkLaTex, starting with the southern edge of the region. Okay, next thing. I don't know how to say your first name, but Mr. or Mrs. Thomas, I'm sorry. How bad can you say Shreveport will be? Shreveport, I'm watching out for street flooding, especially. I think that's going to happen at the very least, especially because obviously the heavy rainfall is coming on down now. But I think most of the street flooding is going to be an absolute mess, especially since the ground's going to be soaked. The water's not going to get a good chance to evaporate at all between these breaks whatsoever. Especially because the cloud cover is still going to be there. We're not going to see, I don't think, any peaks of sunshine at all here for the day today, to be quite frank with you. And that's going to lead us with a soaked ground, leading us for this line of storms to provide probably the worst chance of street flooding here for the day today, especially into Shreveport. So we've had so many stories out with stories past about flash flooding issues in Shreveport flooding out some of our roadways. You know the spots, especially if you're local to here, so please avoid them. One of them, for example, is Kings Highway next to I-49. Just look to avoid it, especially in the afternoon. I think it's okay still right now, even underneath the heavy rain, because this has only been like the second round of storms in the course of an hour. But later on today, it could get even worse. It could get even worse. I think that's the worst we can get with the street flooding here for Shreveport. And the only other thing I'm concerned with Shreveport is if that tornadic risk really lifts as far north as the I-20 corridor. That's the other main question here. All right, Tiffany, it's storming on the state Texas-Louisiana line. That was about 9 minutes ago. That sounds about right. And it's pouring in Magnolia. Thank you for the report, Ann. Hey, I always appreciate weather reports. Trust me. Weather radar is technically like 2 minutes, 3 minutes behind in a way, kind of, because the radar has to create like a full loop, and I always appreciate reports. I think Nikki, is Shreveport clear for overnight tornadoes? Yes, I'm not expecting overnight tornadoes in Shreveport. That's a great question. I think the latest Shreveport can get those kind of tornadic cells moving on through, I think the latest they get them is like 7, 8, maybe 9. So it goes into tonight. The chance of tornadic cells still yes. As I said, like as late as 8, 9, 10 o'clock, maybe 10 at the very, very latest. But the point is, it doesn't go into the overnight hours. So you can go sleep, and you can sleep restfully without having to worry about, yes, any chance of severe storms. What about Heflin? Haley asked, what about Heflin? What about Heflin? Okay, Heflin. Boom. Is that the same as... Heflin's by Minden. I think you guys, especially because you're on the eastern half of the ArkLaTex, obviously you haven't had too much in terms of rainfall yet, but especially for Heflin, I think you got to wait. Again, this is a snail's pace. This is the main line that has to pass you, and then you're done. The problem is it's still got a long way to go to get to Shreveport, and it's got even further to go to get along to Heflin. So Heflin's going to receive storms, and even the chance of a tornadic cell or two. Yes, that could be even on the table in the eastern edge of the region here for the day today, even for tonight as well, because it might be more of an issue for tonight. As we went over Natchitoches, which kind of goes over most of the eastern edge of the region, storms could be lingering there as late as midnight here tonight. So it's more like a nighttime threat for those of you in Heflin, Michelle, and Haley. Watch out in the nighttime hours, which means you might actually be clear for the afternoon commute home. Out towards there. I would say you're clear for the afternoon commute home, but once you're there, stay cozy, because most of it's going to happen in the nighttime hours out towards there. What about Minden? Same thing. Again, watching out for the tornadic threat, watching out for the flash flood threat, but kind of just the timing is shifted a little later, especially because you're on the eastern half of the region, more into the nighttime hours. Is anything going to hit Houghton? Yes. Well, I wouldn't say just yes, flat out. The chance for severe weather is possible for Houghton, including tornadic activity here for the day today as well. Thunderstorm, Shreveport, lightning. I agree. Hey, our news station where we're recording and where we do all of our things from, we're in Shreveport right now, just on the southern edge of downtown. Brittany, thunder starting up in Benton. Yes, it is. That makes sense. Let me zoom in on our radar, actually. I realized I was getting a little too zoomed out. That is not the map tool. Hold up. There we go. So again, a little bit of light to moderate rainfall in the northern half of the ArkLaTex, but most of the heaviest storms right now going through Shreveport, Mansfield, and just starting to roll into Benton. Again, as this is going to be moving up north and east. And this is going to catch on to Webster and Bossier parishes here in just the next little bit. And again, all this is not severe weather. It's just heavy rain. All the severe weather, again, comes later on this afternoon. Alyssa, I hope that's how I pronounce your name. L-A, oh my God, I'm tired. A-L-I-S-A. So we are just watching for tornadoes, but we don't know for now. I mean, we're watching out for the chance of, tornadic activity, which is looking still a little likely in through the region, especially into the afternoon hours. But I feel like some of you are uneasy because I know we already have tons of storms in the ArkLaTex. It's like, what the heck? Where's the severe weather threat? It's going to be contained in the heat of the afternoon. Rest assured, okay? It's going to happen then. I hope a tornadic cell doesn't form, period. But again, the chances out there for those of you in the southern edge of the ArkLaTex, and it could go as far north, again, as the I-20 corridor. It's just watching out for that. And personally, if we see a tornadic cell, let me zoom out on the radar here for you as well. If we see, for example, a tornadic cell form with a tornado warning farther into the southern end of the ArkLaTex, like right around here. This is just a hypothetical example. We're not talking about something happening right now. But what I want to get at is essentially if you have a tornado warning right now towards here, it would go in this kind of direction where all the storms have been going throughout the day today, north and east. That means that the tornadic cell could potentially still survive and linger on as it continues as far north as the I-20 corridor before dying off on the Arkansas-Louisiana border. So everything you're watching out for in the radar app here for this afternoon is going to be coming out of the south. For Natchitoches and Nacogdoches, you're watching even farther south to see if there's anything off to your south coming into your area. But for Shreveport, you're watching out of things coming out of Panola County pretty much here throughout the day today. Coming from Carthage, moving up north and east to your area. If you're in Minden, you're watching areas of like Red River Parish. Coming up into your kind of area, for example. It's watching out to your south and west to see what's coming up north and east. If it's a tornadic cell, I'd be going ahead and getting yourself ready. All right. Heavy rain and thunder right now in Keithville, stormy. What time is it right now? It is 11:20. I got about 10 minutes at the most to wrap this up. So if y'all still have questions, feel free to keep on asking. Jordan, heavy rain, Shreveport, Blanchard, Moore. Yep, absolutely. What about Saline, Louisiana? Ask Patty. I believe Saline is... Saline. Yeah, that's out towards... That's where I thought. That's out towards... That's north of Natchitoches. Same thing, eastern side of the ArkLaTex, which means most of this threat, some of these storms, it could hit Saline in just the next few hours, especially as these kind of cells form off to our south and then continue to move off east. Case in point, we have this cell just forming on the Texas-Louisiana state line as we've been talking. Behind this cell, and this looks like it's going to roll into DeSoto Parish and Red River Parish before maybe moving into Webster and Bienville. So these kind of cells can catch on to you in the afternoon hours, but the main line of the flash flood threat, I think, for example, is this line right here that you're watching out for, and that's going to mainly happen for Saline more towards tonight. Still not until tonight and waiting until then. What about Grand Cane? Grand Cane. I think this might be one of the final ones I do for actual places because they're taking a little too much time to go over. Grand Cane, it's kind of just on the southern end of Shreveport. So, I mean, you're getting the heavy rain here for now in Grand Cane. But, again, we're watching out for this line and anything else. And until this line passes, you can receive these kind of cells coming on through, coming with heavy rain. And once we get into the afternoon, these cells could contain more than heavy rain, could contain the threat of hail, flash flooding, and even a tornadic cell or two moving on through, unfortunately. All right, I saw someone asking about Marshall. Before that, Jordan, are we just watching out for flash flooding in Shreveport? No, hail, strong winds, even tornadoes. I can't rule that out for Shreveport here for this afternoon, sadly. Marshall, Texas. You're kind of getting a break for now, which I would go ahead and take advantage of. But again, that line out to your west, out towards Mount Pleasant and getting into Tyler right now, that's still got to come through you. And that's going to come through you probably in the next 2 to 3 hours, starting in the next 2 to 3 hours, and then last an additional 2 to 3 hours over towards Marshall. All right, I'm going a little more quickly over this again because I got to hop off of this here very, very soon, in probably the next 5 minutes or so. Princeton's over towards Dallas. You don't need to worry about tornadoes at all over there. What about Bienville Parish? Same thing that I said about Saline. You're on the eastern edge. You're worrying about pretty much everything tonight over in Bienville Parish. I asked about Marshall. Okay, I'm getting to the end of these comments. Kayla, what time does heavy weather start in Shreveport and possible tornadic activity? Great question. Let me go back to our friendly little graphic here. Well, bam. Your answer to the answer to your question is literally in this graphic right here, and I'm gonna go ahead and remove myself so you can see the full thing. That is your window to receive severe weather for each of those locations, pretty much. Again, you're getting storms now, but as stated, you're not really getting severe weather whatsoever. Again, I know it's a long window, but again, this line of storms is just going to be moving at a snail's pace, and it's ending by 11. There should be nothing left by 11. That's what I mean by that. So realistically, it could end, like, for example, in Shreveport, the severe weather chance could end more towards like 8 or 9, but it ends at 11 o'clock at the latest, essentially. But yeah, I do want to stress, this system is moving extremely slowly. Extremely slowly. All right, when will evening storms start and finish? For Shreveport, for example, again, this kind of time frame, I go more towards like 3 to 8. It's more kind of like the medium of when I'm expecting things. Morning, the evening commute, pretty much right throughout that. Barbara, rain. Yes, it will be raining today. Oh, Princeton, Louisiana. I'm so sorry. Sorry, I don't know why it went just to Princeton, Texas. Princeton, Louisiana. That's east of Shreveport. Yeah, I mean, just a little later, but I mean, same thing on this map for Princeton. I mean, you're expecting everything pretty much throughout the afternoon commute hours. Some of the questions that I've had today on the stream have been asking as well, like, do I need to get a little home a little earlier and pick up people before 4 p.m. or somebody's doing a job in the afternoon, right in the thick of that? Do I need to cancel that? And my answer to that is probably yes. Because it's not, again, just the tornadic threat that you're dealing with. It's also the flash flooding and just dealing with those consistent potential flooded out roadways. It's just going to be a nuisance to deal with. So I just go ahead and keep yourself safe and set with all that. All right, Facebook comments are all done. I do see that we do have 3 or 4 YouTube comments. Thank y'all for being patient if y'all are still over here. What's with the white patches in the middle of the heavy rain? Asks Roses. Where? What's with the white patches? Oh, are you talking about just like the pockets of dry air? Let me go back to the radar. I think they're just talking about that. I mean, that's just some pockets of dry air in between some of these cells. I say dry air. I mean, this is an incredibly moist environment that's stuck on top of us, but essentially most of the cell itself is collecting itself just all together. For example, from Shreveport all the way down the I-49 corridor, almost getting pretty close to Natchitoches there. So essentially, we're just watching out for that's just dry weather. What would you expect in the Vivian, Atlanta, Ida area? Ooh, good question. I don't think you're expecting much of you're on the very edge of the tornadic area, up towards Vivian and Ida, very edge of the tornadic risk. So maybe expect that, but I think most of the issue for the northern half of the region is flash flooding. Just watching out for some of those flooded roadways, especially in the thick of the afternoon. Lastly, I'm near Pines Road and Burnt Coons, and we just got 0.4 from the storm that just passed us. Wow. Good. Keep it going with the healthy dose of rainfall, but I hope it doesn't get to too much because, as stated, this is just the beginning. This could continue all the way through tonight. All right, I've answered everybody's questions on Facebook and YouTube. I'm going to sign off. Thank y'all very much for joining me. I have to go. And I got to set up for the noon show. The noon show will be our next update. That's our show. That's our TV show coming up in just over 30 minutes. I have some things to do before then to get set up. Again, we'll be with you all day long today. All right. Even when I'm gone, CJ will be here as well throughout the entire afternoon and evening. Keep first aware and first alert. I will come back even if I need to as well to help you guys out. And hopefully it does not get that bad, especially with the tornadic cells. I think the street flooding is going to happen. I just think that's inevitable with how much storm and how much rainfall is going to come on through, especially with somebody on our comments saying some of our streets haven't been cleared of some of the drainage, some of the leaves blocking some of the drains, for example. If you have the chance to be able to, community service, that goes a long ways, especially to help out flooding as much as it can, is to clear some of those drainage ways, for example. All right, I got to go. Peace out. Again, stay weather aware, please, here for the rest of today with KSLA News 12. We'll keep you up to date in the very latest. First weather breakdown will be back on 10:30 tomorrow, same time, same place. And we'll have more about the Thanksgiving forecast and look forward to brighter days ahead then. But, hey, thank you guys so much again for joining me here for the day today. I really appreciate it. You have a great rest of your day. And, again, stay weather aware. Have a good one.